we've seen a lot of progress, especially since the end of the Second World War, in the Christian world, in terms of self-examination, looking at the roots of Christian anti-Judaism and anti-Semitism, and a lot of serious soul-searching on where that comes from and how to confront that and how to change that sort of narrative within the Christian world, even within Christian theology, looking for a new theology of the relationship between Judaism and Christianity. We see this especially in the Catholic Church. We've seen it in some of the Protestant churches as well. But most recently, around the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in some of the more progressive Protestant churches, their activism is being expressed in theological terms that often echo some of the classic Christian anti-Judaism, and that's very worrying for us.
So how is Israel, how are the Jewish people supposed to balance between these lovers of Israel and, as you said, people who are sticking back to the bad old anti-Semitism?
Well, it's an interesting place to be because you have some in the evangelical community who are extremely supportive of Israel, but not necessarily so supportive of the idea of Judaism. That is, they affirm our national aspirations, but they don't affirm our religious validity. And then you have others who are willing to affirm our religious validity, but reject our national aspirations. And sometimes we become sort of a ping-pong ball between these groups of Christians as they have their own inner battles. And that's not a very comfortable place to be either.
So do you feel that it's problematic for Israel to accept the hugs of those who are maybe anti-Jewish, but they're totally pro-Israel?
That's a very difficult question. You have a small state like Israel, which is beset by many problems, and one could say, you know, any place we can find a friend, we should accept that friendship. And I understand that argument. But it is, on the other hand, to accept help from someone who's ultimate, especially if some of the, say, the premillennial dispensationalists in the evangelical world who see the Jewish return to the land of Israel as merely a precursor to the second coming of Jesus. And so it really has nothing to do with Jews, Judaism, or the state of Israel. It's all part of an eschatological drama. And I don't know that we want to be able to play that role in their beliefs.
What could and should be done against the actual anti-Semitic statements that we are seeing in churches from time to time that you talked about? Legislation, the law, can anyone act against these?
Well, in the United States, it's very difficult in terms of law. I think it's important to point out that the majority of mainline Protestants in the United States are generally favorable to Israel, favorable to the Jewish community. But what you find in these churches is a small group of activists who are able to work the sort of the inner politics of the different denominations to bring their resolutions before a General Assembly, to get them approved, even if they don't represent the feelings of the majority of the people. So we need to work with those in those churches who are our friends, who are concerned about the false use of theology, of biblical passages, and especially the use of anti-Jewish rhetoric, and hope that they can also have an effect on their own churches.